So some people have been through some stuff and their limits may be different, but to them they're comfortable. To you, you have no idea what's underneath of this to explain what their limits are. But because this was your limit doesn't mean that this is not their limit, but that doesn't make it any less honest for them. So, my topic was know your limits, what you're good at, what you're not good at, and where to set your boundaries are, and where to set your boundaries at, my bad. So, let's start with knowing what you're good at. A lot of us nowadays are like, we're good at a lot of things, right? You're okay at a lot of things. You dibble and dabble, you may be creative, you may like the arts, you may like construction, you may like a ton of things. But what are you really good at? What do you focus your time on? What is your passion? Knowing what your passion is a part of knowing what your limits are. And so, how do you find out what your passion is? If you like to do 18 things, what do you feel like you can't live without? What do you feel like you live and breathe? What do you feel like at the end of the day, you go to bed thinking about it, you wake up thinking about it, when you don't do it, you feel like there's something missing in your life? That's something that you're probably passionate about, or someone, or an area, or an activity, or music that you're probably passionate about. And so for me, that was baking. I didn't start out as a chef, and unbeknownst to people, probably about 13, 14 years ago, couldn't make rice, didn't know how to fry chicken. I wasn't that person. I was your standard Alfredo in the oven girl, right? Right out the freezer. But I always knew that when my grandmother passed as a teenager, I knew that was with her in the kitchen was something that I longed for. And making cakes and giving that joy to people, being a part of people's special days was something that I was really, really missing. I love being a part of that. And so after being in the medical field for 10 years, I packed all my stuff up, moved me and my kids to Las Vegas in 2 weeks' notice. Whatever we could fit in our carry-on suitcases, and our luggage, that's what we left with. I dropped everything and I got a job on the strip. And so once I did that, losing everything and everybody, but picking up something that I was passionate about was something that I felt like I had just broken open a door that nobody even told me I had access to. So that was a limit for me where all my adult life I felt like I wasn't reaching my potential, something I was just going through life, right? And sometimes you feel like that. You're just living the day to day. I'm out here, my friend's doing this, so I'll do that. My mom said I should probably try this. My teacher said, that's what we do. And then you become an adult and you're like, well, really, what do I do? What do I like? And so the opposite side of that is knowing what you aren't so great at. So if you are an entrepreneur or a woman of color or a young person nowadays, most times you gotta be everything. You gotta be the cook and the planner, and you gotta be the chauffeur, you gotta drive, you gotta figure it all out. But a part of knowing what you can put down, what you can give to somebody else or ask somebody to help you with is a part of knowing your limits. I love to paint things. Am I good at painting things? Absolutely not. Could I do this? Absolutely not. Now if I needed to paint a wall because it needs to get done, it's gonna get done. But is it gonna stress me out doing it? Probably. Am I going to be pissed that I had to do it? More than likely. It may save me some dollars, but it's going to cost me mentally. And so knowing your limits is not costing yourself mentally and things that you have the option to put down. And so those two things together take me to the most important piece of what knowing your limits are, is your boundaries. And so as a kid, I wish somebody told me what my boundaries were, like what that meant. Nobody told me. And a lot of us find out by somebody crossing your boundaries or somebody not respecting your boundaries. So knowing your boundaries is a two-way street. It's a matter of you figuring out what makes you comfortable, what makes you uncomfortable, what you like and what you don't like, and then conveying that to other people. How many of us here ever read instructions on like a frozen dinner or instructions on something you had to cook or put together? Show of hands, anybody? how long it takes, or what's the title of it? What's the actual name of that they give you? Directions or instructions, right? And so a part of that is giving somebody your handling instructions. Your boundaries are called your handling instructions. Nobody knows what you like or don't like just off the top of their head, right? And so only you have lived your life. Not your parents, not your teachers, even if you got twin sisters, they have not lived your life. But you may find out whenever I get yelled at, it completely, like it breaks me down, shut down. I can't listen to nothing you say. I don't process it. I'm in tears and I don't like the way I feel. And so there's a proper way to say, listen, not, but I'll be like, don't ever in your life. You probably already crossed your boundary if you have to explain it that way. You go when you're calm, you go when you're of sound mind and say, I don't like when you did this. Or I would appreciate it if you did it this way. Or if it's a parent, which a lot of times that relationship can be hard to navigate, having a voice in. You go to your parent and say, Mom, Dad, Grandma, whoever, can we just talk about when this happened? I acknowledge I maybe could have done this differently, but can we do this going forward? Can we not do this going forward? And hopefully that will be reciprocated because you've now given your handling instructions, and then you also listen to the person who's on the other end of that, who says, okay, if I ask you to do A, B, and C, I need you to do it by this time frame, or I need you to do it this way. So that all of you have clear boundaries set. So knowing what you can do, knowing what you can't do, and then your boundaries. So I'm just gonna give you guys a little demonstration. Obviously everything I do comes back to cake, right? That's just, my husband's like, you could have done this with safety pins. I'm like, so what? All right, so in these containers, I don't know if you guys can see, but we've got just plain cake, right? Nothing's on this cake. This cake represents you, right? So all of these cakes are the same. How much can we put on this cake that makes it still edible, that makes you want to eat it, right? That looks appealing to people. How much can this cake take? All right, so on its own, more than likely, you got you one layer of frosting, right? And that frosting may be, I got a job, I go to school, my mom asked me to watch my siblings, right? Just the basic everyday stuff. I got kids, I got 4 of them. Just your basic life. And you add a little bit on top, right? And your little bit on top might be a little bit to you, but it might be a lot to me, right? Now, how many of us think that this looks good to you? Honestly, like if it looked like, to me, I would eat this. I'm not gonna lie. Anybody? Nobody?
With no icing.
Why does it not look like, is the too much icing for you?
It's just like, it's just there.
Too many. Anybody else? Too many sprinkles, anybody? Right? You don't like sprinkles at all. So everybody in here has a different opinion of what they feel like is acceptable to them. What they feel like is edible. To me, this is life. Like I'm finna eat this, okay? Give me a fork. I'm finna tear this up, right? So this is just the basics, right? But you're not gonna do too much more than this. No matter if you think this is edible or not, this is just all you have. So now we got our second cake, right? Now, our second cake done been through some stuff, okay? We're gonna put this frosting on it. But in addition to the basic life stuff, maybe you witnessed some people who weren't the best people to you. Maybe you've been through some stuff. Maybe you were in foster care. Maybe you didn't have enough to eat in the house that you thought you should have, right? And then just compile it with our regular stuff, right? The same stuff we had in the last thing, just our regular stuff. Again, with the extra sprinkles, because I'm extra, okay? So now, anybody like this cake? This looks good to you, right? This looks good to you? So some people have been through some stuff and their limits may be different, but to them they're comfortable. To you, you have no idea what's underneath of this to explain what their limits are. But because this was your limit doesn't mean that this is not their limit, but that doesn't make it any less honest for them, right? Now, the thing about this is if you let this soak too long, it's gonna fall apart in the middle. Because you haven't addressed what's underneath all this basic stuff. But this still is this person's limit, regardless if that's all they know, right? Because they was just sitting here in this pan, and so it doesn't know anything different than what you gave it. But it's still its limit. Doesn't change the fact that this is now its limit. Whatever you put on it, unless it falls off, is its current limit, right? All right, so now we finna get a little saucy. We finna get it. So now, you have what people call strong people. Anybody in here been called strong?
I know, right?
So, if you are a strong person, sometimes I know, because I know I've been called a strong person, you can perceive that as a positive thing, you can perceive that as a negative thing, but it does not change that you are a strong person. It does not change that you don't realize that your limits have been maxed out until you already upset and pissed off and overwhelmed, right? Most times you decorate a cake, the entire cake, all the way around, you don't see the cake. But sometimes you hesitate because you want people to see the layers. There's a lot going on in the layers. You might have caramel, you might have whipped cream, you might have berries, you can have anything in there. But you want people to see the layers. So, this is going to explain to you your support system and all the extra that you can take on because you have conditioned yourself to be and to take and to do and to be so much more, right? So this same now basic stuff that's basic to everybody else is in there, right? But it's a little messy now because you're trying to fit all this stuff in this one container, right? And then we're gonna add on all this other trauma and drama and extra stuff that everybody else had, but you're strong, right? So you know your limit, and you know that you probably shouldn't, or you probably should rest, or you probably should say no, I'm uncomfortable, but you're not. And so we're gonna open the other side. So you really won't go hard because you gotta show people how strong you are, right? But wait, because if you're a really, really, really strong person, you also finna take another person's smaller problems and you finna put it in there with all your extra problems, right? You finna take all the other stuff. Don't worry, we got extra cupcakes. We got extra cupcakes. Because I really want y'all to understand, like, so this could be your kids, your mama, your siblings, your job, your grandma, right? But we don't break. See, the difference is some people have those limits and it's like, all right, that's it. And you can see their limits. But us, the world sees all of this.
It looks so nice.
Right? The world sees, like, they're keeping it together. You really keeping it together. What they think, right? So you just gonna just take some more. Like, why not? Just, I got it. I promise you, I'm strong. Everybody knows I'm strong. I got this. But something that I promise y'all that nobody over here sees except maybe one person close to me, one person close to you, or their best friend, or their mom, is that if I pick this up, tell me what you see down there.
Mess.
Is it a mess?
Yeah.
What you see?
Meltdown.
The meltdown, right? And then one day, because you never gave nobody your handling instructions, this finna be you. That's gonna be you. And all your mess and all your stuff, because you didn't know what your boundaries are, but nobody else knew what your boundaries are. So the key takeaway is know what your boundaries are for you, for somebody else and for everything else that you take it on. Because it's not fair to you. It's not fair to somebody else. And it's not fair to your situation for you to not know what your own boundaries are, for you to not know what your limits are. I'm Jasmine. That's it.